In this lesson, I will be discussing river profiles and the various courses of a river. A river can be divided into three parts or three courses, what we call the upper course, the middle course, and the lower course. The upper course of the river is that section of the river closest to its start or its source or origin. It then travels downslope towards the ocean or towards the lake, and its mouth and the mouth of the river is found in the lower course. In dealing with the different parts of the river and its flow from source to mouth, it is important to pay attention and be able to describe the gradient or the slope of the land over which the river flows. Of equal importance is that the steepness or gradient of the land over which the river flows has an important influence on the speed at which the water in that river flows, and additionally the speed of the water determines the fluvial process or processes that occur in the various parts of the river. It is vitally important to remember that these three, gradient, speed, and the resultant processes, cannot be separated from each other, as the gradient determines the speed of the water, and the speed of the water determines the process that occurs in either the upper, the middle, or the lower course of the river. When looking at the diagram, you should notice that as the river flows from upper through the middle course to the lower course, the gradient or the slope of the land over which the river flows changes. In the upper course, the gradient or the slope of the land can be described as steep or very steep. Because of the steep gradient, the river flows fast, and this fast flowing river creates erosion, specifically vertical erosion. So in the upper course, the gradient can be described as steep. The speed of the water can be described as being fast, and the process, the dominant process in the upper course, is erosion. So the steepness of the slope creates a fast flowing river, and a fast flowing river which has got lots of energy erodes the land over which that river flows. In the middle course of the river, the gradient of the land becomes less steep and can be described as being gradual. Because the gradient is less steep, the river slows down much more than what it was in the upper course, and in this part of the river we have a combination of both erosion and deposition, but the main aim of the middle course is to transport eroded material from the upper course down towards the lower course of the river. So for the middle course, the gradient is gradual, which causes the river to slow down, and the main fluvial process in the middle course of the river is transportation. You're in actual fact allowed to say that it's a combination of erosion and deposition, but in most instances the word transportation is used to describe the process in the middle course. In the lower course of the river, the gradient is described as being flat or level. As a result of this, there is no gravity acting on the water. Therefore, the water slows down and is at its slowest. And because the river is flowing so slowly, it is unable to carry any of the eroded material, and therefore it drops the material in the river course, making the dominant fluvial process in the lower course of the river deposition. So for lower course, flat or level land, slow flowing river, main fluvial process is deposition. So to summarize, in the upper course, steep, middle gradual, lower is flat. Fast flowing river in the upper course, it slows down in the middle course and is at its slowest in the lower course. In the upper course, the main fluvial process is erosion, transportation in the middle course, and deposition is the dominant fluvial process in the lower course of the river. The diagram shows what is called a longitudinal profile of the river. In essence, it shows us the entire length of the river from source through the various courses all the way to the mouth. The definition of what a longitudinal profile is as follows. It is a side view of the river from source to mouth. You could also speak of a side view of the river from its start to its finish, or a side view showing the entire length of the river. The word profile often means a side view, or we use the word side view to describe what a profile is. In this case, it is a side view of the river from source all the way to its mouth. The profile drawn is a longitudinal profile, and we say that the one shown is an example of a graded longitudinal profile. A graded longitudinal profile is a profile that is nice and smooth, and it takes on a concave shape. So should the examiner ask you to describe the shape of a graded longitudinal profile, the answer would be that it takes on a concave shape. So in essence, the longitudinal profile basically shows you the river from start to mouth in its entire length. The transverse profile of a river is a view across the river from bank to bank. The transverse profile is interested in what the river channel looks like if you were to cut from one side of the river or one bank across the river to the other bank. When it comes to the transverse profile, it's very important to be able to draw a sketch of the transverse profile, in addition to being able to explain and describe the shape of the transverse profile, but also to explain why the transverse profile in the upper or the middle or the lower course takes on that specific shape. In the upper course of the river, the transverse profile can be described as V-shaped, and this V-shaped profile is created by the fact that the dominant fluvial process in the upper course is erosion, but erosion is specifically vertical or downward. So you can use the word downward erosion or vertical erosion. When sketching the transverse profile in the upper course of the river, ensure that you make the profile or you make the river channel very deep, but do keep the area across the river from one bank to the other. Don't make it too wide. So this profile takes on a V shape. In the middle course, the transverse profile can be described as an open V shape. In this instance, the dominant process would be erosion, which serves to widen the river, but also deposition, which serves to make the river shallower. Remember that in the middle course, the dominant fluvial process is transportation, but you can also speak about a combination of erosion and deposition. And then finally, in the lower course, the transverse profile can be described as being wide and shallow. The main fluvial process being deposition, and deposition is responsible for making this river so shallow. So remember that the transverse profile is a view across the river from one bank to the other. In the upper course, the profile is V-shaped as a result of vertical erosion. In the middle course, it is an open V-shape as a result of a combination of erosion and deposition. And in the lower course, it can be described as wide on flat and shallow, mainly shallow because of deposition being the dominant fluvial process in the lower course of the river.